Hi, this is Ghost Hunter Joe, and believe it or not, this is my fourth video which discusses the popular Mansfield, Ohio area local urban legend known as Mary Jane's Grave. This is a picture I found on the internet of Mary Jane Hendrickson, the unfortunate subject of this urban legend, which dates back to 1960. Miss Hendrickson was born on September 22, 1825, and died from complications from cancer on March 3, 1898. She was a member of the Evangelical Association and buried next to her sister and brother-in-law, Samuel and Sophia Sechrist, at the Mount Olive Cemetery, a Christian cemetery located at the end of a long dirt road in the middle of the woods near Lucas, Ohio. Had she been a witch, as the legend claims, I seriously doubt she would have been buried in a Christian cemetery. In 1960, a camp counselor at the nearby Hidden Hollow campground, upon seeing her grave near the edge of the cemetery, made up a story to scare 10 to 12-year-old campers about Miss Hendrickson being a witch who was hung from a great pine tree in the cemetery by a mob of angry Christians. Over the years, this story developed into a widely popular urban legend. I first heard about it when I was a junior in high school and had just moved to the area from Florida. This is a picture of Mary Jane's name, which I have outlined in red as engraved on the main memorial located in the front of the cemetery. Despite her name being on this marker, indicating that she was buried in the cemetery, versions of the legend that she was buried in an unmarked grave under the tree from which she was supposedly hung still persist to this day. This is an older picture of the Mount Olive Cemetery, which I found on the internet several years ago. Sadly, the cemetery no longer looks like this, as most of the headstones have been destroyed due to age, weather, and/or vandalism. Sometime after this photograph was taken, the aforementioned memorial listing the names of all the decedents interred at the cemetery was erected in the front of the cemetery. Please note the red arrow I placed near the center of the picture, which points to the tree that was known as Mary Jane's tree. According to most versions of the legend, there was a curse associated with this tree. Some versions claim that if you touched the tree from which Mary Jane was allegedly hung, you would die. The version that I heard when I was in high school was if you peed on her tree, you would have bad luck, such as your car not starting or getting into an accident upon leaving the cemetery. Almost all my classmates claim to have known someone, or that their parents knew someone, who died in a fatal crash after peeing on Mary Jane's tree. This is the spooky-looking dirt road in front of the Mount Olive Cemetery. I took this photograph during one of my visits in 2011. This is the main memorial referenced earlier, located at the front of the cemetery, which lists the names of all the decedents who were buried at the cemetery. Mary Jane's name is etched on the last column on the right. I took this photograph during one of my visits in 2011. This is a picture of Mary Jane's infamous tree, which I also took in 2011. Prior to my camera's flash, it was pitch dark and I could not see anything, did not know how far back to stand, so I just aimed my camera in a general direction and hoped for the best. In 2014, a juvenile delinquent took a chainsaw to the Mount Olive Cemetery and sawed down Mary Jane's tree. This is a picture of me taken in 2019, standing next to the stump that used to be Mary Jane's tree. Part of the legend of Mary Jane's grave was that upon her death, her image was burnt into the trunk of the tree from which she was hung, and that if you stared into this image long enough, you would see Mary Jane's face. Some said that it was burnt into the tree, others said that it was painted, and still others said it was sap. However it was done, this is a photograph that I took of it in 2011. It seems that each time one looks at this image, they see something different. Some people claim to see a hooded person. Others see an old woman, while others see a skeletal face. What do you see, if anything? The next several slides are possible images of Mary Jane's face, which I've outlined in black to make them a little easier to see, including one with her wielding an axe. This is a screenshot of a YouTube video titled October 10, 2010, Tucker Road, Mary Jane's Grave Part 2, published in 2010 by Lakotas Den 2006, which captures the alleged image of Mary Jane's face much better than my photograph taken in 2011. Here is the alleged image circled in red. I really am not sure what would cause this image to appear on this tree. I just know that my high school classmates were talking about it in 1976 and claimed that their parents were talking about it when they were in high school years before. As far as I know, it remained up until the tree was sawed down in 2014. If it was done by a prankster, as some suggest, one must admit that it was an awfully long time for someone to keep up such a prank. So, in conclusion, were any of the images shown and discussed in this video the image of Mary Jane's face on the tree known as Mary Jane's Tree from 1898 to 2014? Since Mary Jane wasn't a witch and wasn't hung from the tree in question, my guess is a resounding no. If anything, it's probably the result of our eyes playing tricks on us, the power of suggestion, or matrixing. Matrixing is the phenomenon that our brains try to make sense of what our eyes see by making us think we're seeing relatively common objects. But I must admit that it's all sort of fun and interesting. In any event, I hope you enjoyed this video as I enjoyed presenting it. And this is Ghost Hunter Joe saying happy hunting and see you next time.